about what it's like to take care of a baby.
Man, it's great.
And what you're learning from those little yoginis.
I'm learning a lot. I was just thinking about this earlier, that people always say we learn a lot from children. And I do think that we learn a lot from watching children, but I actually think we learn more about of ourselves taking care of children. So like how we parent ourselves. And that's what I was just thinking about. The reflection that I see in my parenting of her, my caregiving towards her, is how I take care of myself too. Does that make sense?
Tell me more about parenting yourself. What does that mean?
Exactly? I was thinking about this. I'm glad you asked to get more specific. I think that we have a lot of child parts inside of us. And, with shame, discouragement, fear, anxiety, and how we take care of those parts is similar to how we will actually take care of an external child in the real world. So, like how I'm taking care of her when she falls down, I'm noticing is like, wow, I like the way I'm doing that with her. Maybe I can do that with myself too.
Yeah, maybe not physically falling down, but falling down in a metaphorical way.
That's perfect. Yeah.
Dude, that's awesome. And just to clarify, you do not have a child.
I do not have a child.
You're taking care of a child.
Taking care of, yeah. So not my biological niece, but I refer to her as my niece.
Nice.
Because it's just easier.
And so what are you doing here in LA?
I came out to help assist an acro yoga workshop on Pops like 2 weeks ago, and then had this opportunity to stay and take care of this child and get a plane ticket out of it, so I just decided to hang out. Yeah, it made sense.
Yeah, let's get into acro yoga a little bit, because you put up some amazing stuff on social media. I know you work with Brittany a lot.
Yeah.
How has that journey been for you? And like, is it a passion of yours? Do you practice every day? How does it look?
It totally caught me by surprise. I thought I was really happy doing rock climbing until I started doing acro. And then it was like, I just haven't rock climbed since.
Really?
So it's really only been, it's been off and on a teeny bit. 6 months ago it started, but really started getting going 3 months ago. Since moving to Austin and playing a lot with my housemates. They're all incredible acro yogis.
Yeah, once you get into a community, it's hard not to do it, because it's like playing like you're a monkey. It's just like so childlike, fun movements. I've done a little bit. I've never like carved out legitimate time to focus on it strictly, but I've been to like yoga festivals and stuff, and you'll see people doing incredible things, and you go over and you fly someone, and it's so awesome.
It's so awesome. It fulfills so many needs is the thing, because like interacting with people is one of my favorite things to do in the world. Moving my body and playing, another one of my favorite things to do in the world. Touch feels so good. And so we get to combine all those things. You improve your communication skills, you improve your body, you're stretching all the time. It's like you just can't beat it. I love it. So I'm totally addicted, and I've been doing it. I do it probably 5 days a week at this point, but sometimes it's for like 8 hours at a time.
And how does the spiritual side of yoga, as just a practice of union and oneness? Because what I've noticed is oftentimes like acro, it's separated. Like are there acro classes where you can just like go into a yoga studio and they have an acro class, and do you start out with meditation and maybe chant, or is it sort of little separate gymnastics field within the yoga community?
I think it is a little bit separate, more leaning towards the gymnastics field. Yes, there are classes, there are workshops, which I was just assisting, but it's more like for technique, not really developing mindfulness, which I think you're referencing. But I would say mindfulness can be found in anything we have passion for. And if you have passion for walking a dog, you can have mindfulness in that state. And so like, I think a lot of people do find mindfulness being flipped through the air and playing with other people, but it's not maybe what is talked about, but it's happening.
And it's maybe not the traditional style of yoga that's very formal, that's been happening for thousands of years, but it still provides that outlet if that's what you're looking for, and can tap into that.
Yeah, it's all about, I think, connecting with ourselves, being present, being more in the body. So what gets you there? It could be a lot of different things. I think yoga is a good kind of protocol and setup for people to follow. It's been around for a long time. It works really well, but maybe that's not your thing, and maybe you need a little more like interaction.
Yeah.
And I think that's where acro can come in handy for
I am a yoga teacher myself.
That's awesome.
And it is awesome. Completely transformed, changed my life in a more dramatic way, even when I was going through the teacher training that I'd ever expected.
That was so cool.
Have you met Daniel Scott, Namastache? Have you heard of this guy?
No, I haven't heard of that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He's like...
Where's he from?
I don't know where he's from, but he travels around doing acro stuff. He's built a pretty... I saw him at Shakti Fest, the yoga festival, a year ago. But you should definitely check him out, because that's like all he does, is go around teaching acro yoga workshops.
Wow. Dream job.
But you would love that guy. Yeah. He's just a very fun, very funny guy. He has a handlebar mustache, and he calls himself Namastache.
That's awesome. Didn't even pick up on that.
Yeah, he's great.
That's awesome.
Well, I want to sort of get in deeper, because personally I just don't know. Like, I've watched your YouTube videos and stuff like that, but I don't know the full story of how this lifestyle, mindfulness, self-love, and also a fruit-based diet, how that entered into your wavelength and your path. So if we want to take a few minutes to take it back and talk about how that happened, how that journey has begun to unfold.
Yeah, it's always good to revisit that story, because every time I think we tell stories about ourselves, they change, and so it's good for me to reflect on how I'm viewing my narrative. So thanks for asking. Let's see. So about 3 years ago, I was definitely in a completely different life. So I was working like 60 to 80 hours a week, running my own business, doing foreclosure management. So I would take care of these foreclosures all over the Northeast. It was a really intense job, kind of like sad, like as you would probably expect, a little sad, a little depressing, and I was just working myself to death. I was in a relationship that was great, but also not great, and there were things that I needed that I wasn't getting at the time. So, kind of lost myself, didn't know who I was, didn't know what my passions were, and had been drinking pretty consecutively for like 10 years straight. A lot of alcohol, and doing drugs, opiates, mostly binging out like weekends here and there. So that's where I was at, and eating pastrami, and whatever else was available to me. Just not very healthy, not very happy, not very connected with myself. So when my relationship ended, which was not my choice, things just sort of shifted like dramatically for me. I mean, I was sort of like, I felt like I was presented with two choices. It was either like keep doing what you're doing, or like do something totally different. There wasn't really an in between. It felt like very extreme, like polar opposite. So it took me a couple of months to really decide, okay, I'm going to do something different. And the housemate I had at the time had experience eating a fruit-based diet. He had been a fruitarian for a year.
Interesting.
He wasn't at the time. We used to.
Is it someone who's like in the community now?
Not at all. Not at all. Yeah, he's still struggling, with alcohol abuse, and we drank a lot together. But he had this moment of clarity where like he knew like fruit really worked for him. Yeah. And so he was just like, hey man, if you want to change, bananas. And I was like, yeah. It was like one night when we were getting drunk, and I was like, yeah, maybe I'll do that. And so it took a little time, and then I just decided, like, I think I'm ready. And I just went, I bought the box of bananas, and I just did it, like, pretty much overnight.
So this is from just straight standard junk food diet to I'm going to use raw veganism as a segue to transform my life.
Yes, although I wouldn't even say I was that forward thinking. Okay. All I knew was I need to do something.
You needed to throw a wrench in your routine.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I mean, I was drinking like 12 beers a day kind of a thing. Like a lot. And smoking cigarettes.
And was it to the point where, because a lot of people go through their day drinking like every day, and some people don't even see it as a problem. Did it get to the point where your family and friends knew there was something going on, or was it kind of casual?
It was. That's a great question. I don't think anyone else had a real problem with it, or would have said like, "You have an issue here." Right. But then I wasn't really hanging around with the type of people that would suggest that, because that would be a reflection of their own state. Yeah. I knew it was a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And for probably 5, maybe 6, 7 years, I really wanted to stop.
Mm-hmm.
And I just didn't have the skills or the tools to be able to do it. So I started eating these bananas and quit drinking on the 3rd day, quit smoking on the 7th day. I had cut out everything diet-wise, so like no meat, no dairy, no cooked food, no salt, no oil, like the next day.
Wow.
Yeah, it was just totally crazy. And
you just like find a website and just say what it said, or
that's a great question too. Yeah, so I was like, I got on to 30 bananas a day for a while. I watched some Durian Rider. I would be like buzzed at night drinking beer and listening to Harley and be like, yeah, I want to do that.
Yeah.
It was just time for me. I think everybody's journey is a little bit different. For me, it was time. It had to be extreme. It had to be drastic. And I had to do something wild. So that was the first step.
And remember to check out the Plantriotic podcast on iTunes or plantriotic.com.